of the future. This you must know. Your story does not end in the mountains. Your true destiny will lead you to the west, to the Ring of Fire. Seek the flame, for within it lies the power to destroy both good and evil.
Oh boy, well, you guys asked for it. Over my time on YouTube, this has been one of the biggest, most requested things out there. It's been pretty high on my list for a place I'd like to go as well, and it looks like it's finally happening. Yet today I thought was just going to be a regular Tuesday, guys, but turns out not. There's been some news dropped by third-party sites who got some insider scoops from ArenaNet, who have revealed that number 1, episode 2 is coming in 2 weeks. Boy, hasn't that come really quickly. And number 2, more importantly, we are getting a new map next patch, and it's in an entirely new region. That region being the Fire Island chain. And that's huge, okay? The fact that this is set in a whole new region that we've never been to before. Never in the history of Guild Wars 2 have we had that, unless maybe you count South Sun, which really just broke lore and was a completely slapdash and weird, and you could still kind of consider to be a part of Kryta, or at least the game does. Other maps that we've got through Living World have been little extensions to existing regions, right? So you would go to Drytop, and it was still generally considered to be in the vicinity of places we'd already been. Same for the Silver Wastes. When Heart of Thorns came out, we kind of got a whole new region, that being the heart of the Maguma, but never really have we gone to an entirely new landmass and in a free patch. It's the Ring of Fire. You guys have been asking for it for a long time. Let's talk a little bit about what we found out today. And I guess weird shout out to John Morganis, who about 4 months ago said insider info tells us Living World Season 3 will be centered around the Ring of Fire, so keep that in the back of your mind. Maybe he was making shit up, but it does look like we're here now. Okay, so I've tried to get as much information as possible from this first day. My hunch is that what ArenaNet want to do over these next 2 weeks is load us with a bunch of new stuff. There might be reasons to watch their live streams more now, and they'll probably start putting trailers out and so forth, but let's get this out of the way for the first day. What exactly happened? It seems that a few third-party media sites, as I said, got to visit ArenaNet in some capacity, and as far as I can discern, they watched a few videos and heard a bit of a speech. They didn't actually play this stuff. They just got to see what I presume will eventually be the trailers we ourselves will get to see, and heard some extra info. So what you guys should understand as well is just before all this dropped, the speculation and hype for the idea of the Fire Island chain was increasing because of current events. Current events I haven't talked about on the channel, but there was an NPC who started in Frostgorge Sound and slowly over the days has been moving in a southwesterly direction, seemingly headed straight for the Fire Island chain. And right on the back of this came confirmation that was happening. So the place specifically that we're going to is called Ember Bay, and there was no such area named this in Guild Wars 1, perhaps in some really obscure dialogue somewhere, but honestly the story was very thin on the ground in this location in Guild Wars 1. It was mostly about the primary stories. There were very few secondary quests, though a few kind of got added, and there was some incentive introduced a little bit later in the game, like the Black Moa egg hunt and so forth. So we've got the Ember Bay, and the first thing I really should point out, okay, is that because we're going to the Fire Island chain here and we're getting a map there, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to the entire region. In fact, looking at the in-game map here, I would say really we've got space for 2, maybe even 3 maps for the region, and I'd like to see they really do it justice as best possible. You know, add a lot of those water regions around, because there could be interesting things in them, which we'll talk about in a second, and really flesh the whole place out. All that stuff we see on the world map, I want to be able to explore, all these little islands and things. So we're getting the Ember Bay. It seems like we're going to be somewhere on the coast, maybe not too deep inland, maybe not at the most significant area of the Fire Island chain, that being the largest volcano and a place called Abaddon's Mouth, which I'll mention in a second. But importantly too, you need to understand that this region seems to have changed a lot between Guild Wars 1 and 2. And really this starts with just the map art, okay? Okay, so in a lot of situations, the Guild Wars 2 world map looks very similar to the Guild Wars 1 world map. It's just got a different artistic styling to it. But a lot of the geography of various places remains the same. In some places it's different, like the lakes around Kryta look very different and so forth. But the Fire Island chain is massively different. Just look at this overlay here I'll create for you. This is the Guild Wars 1 Fire Island chain. This is the Guild Wars 2 Fire Island chain. Alright, the islands have completely moved. And so what does this mean for the devs? What can we expect? I sincerely hope that they do draw from the motifs and ideas and land masses and locations that were in the first game and just sort of manipulate it and change it a little bit. But I'm curious how they'll deal with that. So what we're finding on the Fire Island chain and in the Ember Bay might not be an entirely 100% accurate depiction of what it was in Guild Wars 1. A little bit like how Bloodstone Fen in Guild Wars 2, the areas where it overlaps at least with the mission from the first game, also don't line up 100%. So hold yourselves in check on that little bit. And there are some very good signs in this information today that there is going to be some consistency between the games more than just the shape of the islands. Alright, so moving on, let's just get the basic stuff out of the way. Yeah, there's going to be achievements. Yeah, there's going to be a mastery. I find it funny that people even feel the need to point out that there's going to be an achievement in this patch. Really? ArenaNet's going to add a new region to the game and not have any achievements? I think that's kind of a given. But there's also supposedly in the center of the map a really cool jumping puzzle. And the reason that there's a jumping puzzle, as far as I can gather, is because supposedly this map has Josh Foreman's deft hands all over the place. So what does this mean? Well, I guess Josh Foreman, one of the devs at ArenaNet, built the map. If you're not sure who he is or why this matters, a lot of people really like Josh and the work that he does because he's kind of famous for doing the Halloween Twisted Clock Tower, which was one of the first kind of high-pressure jumping puzzles that went into the game. Veteran players these days can complete it very easily. But more notably, he made the Super Adventure Box. I think more recently as well, he made the Lion's Arch redesign as well, did significant chunks of that. At least I seem to remember him in a stream talking about the consortium offices and stuff and fixing things up in there. So the guy is well known for his jumping puzzles, and apparently there's a nice big one of those in this map. As for the mastery itself, the mastery is called thermal propulsion. And it sounds like some big explosive means of traveling around the Fire Island chain. Now, there was a little podcast I listened to where it sounds like they were talking about the fact that the Asura haven't made Asura gates in this region, and maybe that also means the Asura haven't had a chance to lay waypoints down in this region. That's speculation from me, but it would go hand in hand with why this new mastery exists, thermal propulsion, and supposedly it allows you to be shot around Ember Bay. And we should really think about this like the New Hawk Wallows, okay? Like it's a new version of that. In Heart of Thorns, we could learn a mastery that allowed us to press F on these things, and we'd dig through these tunnels and come out. It was like a fast travel system for the maps. Well, maybe what I think the devs might have done is they've seen this clamoring from the community to reduce the amount of waypoints, and they're trying something new out in this map where there are no waypoints. Again, speculation from me, and the idea is that this mastery is the cool way of traveling around. You could throw a little bit of criticism at them there for essentially doing New Hawk Wallows twice, but we've had this discussion on my channel before. I actually like this. I think this is cool. I think reusing mastery concepts, as long as the flavor and the theme is slightly different each time, it can be just as rewarding the second time as it was the first time, as long as you're exploring a new area of the world. And if instead of just hitting a loading screen now, we actually go just flying across the map with some massive explosion, which is totally on theme with this fiery area, I think people might really like that. At least I remember when the gliding pads came out in Core Tyria, I really enjoyed flying around on those. So that seems to be a big part of the map. Just the one mastery. I'm wondering then whether the NPCs will have kind of a weird sub-mastery system like we saw with Bloodstone Fen, where you'd collect the map currency to unlock new skills in the area. I guess that will all become obvious as time goes by. Moving on, there is mentioned in the article an idea of a Massah fortress. So talking about landmarks that might cross over from Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2. Now, yes, the Fire Island chain map art has changed a lot. I don't know whether you can just chalk this up to their active volcanic islands, and so they move a lot and their boundaries shift, but the actual things on the island chain are the same in principle, or what? So there's going to be a Massah fortress. Is this one of the Massah outposts we found in Guild Wars 1? Who knows? There were a lot of outposts in Guild Wars 1 on the Fire Island chain. If you guys remember the story, the Massah went to this place because Glint had foretold that there was a portal there filled with enemies that would annihilate them. So they went there to keep the portal closed, and they fortified the hell out of the place with all kinds of obsidian black structures. In fact, my favorite thing that the Massah ever built, like a Massah-based architecture or something, isn't the Temple of the Unseen or whatever in Kryta. It's actually a location in Guild Wars 1 on the Fire Island chain called the Onyx Gate. And what the Onyx Gate is it's this immaculate circular ring of wall, obsidian wall, impenetrable with a single gatehouse in the middle that defends the caldera of the largest volcano on the Fire Island chain. And this is a really cool place. When you go there in Guild Wars 1, you actually do battle with a really strong elementalist Massah called Optimus Caliph. And Optimus Caliph was one of the first of the 3 Massah to save Kryta all those years ago. And Optimus Caliph's name is totally different to all the other Massah names. It's in Latin, I think it suggests that this is the supreme leader of the Massah. And beyond that, Optimus Caliph as a name is just different to other Massah names. Other Massah are called like Mercia the Smug or Lazarus the Dire. And Optimus Caliph seems to avoid this. So we're hearing in Guild Wars 2 that we're going back to the Fire Island chain and that there's going to be a Massah fortress there. Is this going to be an opportunity for us to learn even more about the Massah, get backstory on characters like Optimus Caliph? As for the Onyx Gate itself, considering this is called Ember Bay, and I think we'll sort of be in the introductory regions of the Fire Island chain, I doubt that it's right there at the Onyx Gate and we're going all the way up to Abaddon's Mouth in this patch. So we might not see that far in, but I think this is going to be a great opportunity for the devs to write in a lot of notes and little intriguing things left over from the Massah as they fled the Fire Island chain all those years ago. So, just by the way, I do anticipate all of these fortresses to be empty now. Unless the White Mantle have since gone there, even though the land's supposed to be stupidly inhospitable, and I think that would be a bit weird and unrealistic, and they've gone and they've built loads of jade armors and things, which since they appeared in the previous patch, I'd expect to appear in the more recent ones. I don't actually expect to see many, if any, actual Massah in the area. I just expect to see the leftovers of them. If you guys are forgetting how Prophecies concluded, it ended with us repowering the Door of Kamali using souls, tons of souls that had been trapped in the Undying Lich as we killed him. We recharged the door, closed it, and then the volcano erupted, burying the whole thing. And so the Titans could no longer escape. Then, by the time maybe the portal could have reopened or whatever, Nightfall had already come and gone, Cormyr had already defeated Abaddon, taken his power, and so there wouldn't have been any Titans to go through in the end anyway. So everything's sort of wrapped up in a nice, neat little package. So that eruption plus the Titan invasion presumably killed all the Massah that were on the Fire Island chain at the time, and so I wouldn't expect to see any here. The interesting question is, why are we going back there now? Obviously, there's the Primordus link, the big cliffhanger from the previous chapter of the Living World. There's a chance that Primordus is coming here, not because of the door or anything, but because he wants the Bloodstone. But in terms of the Massahs, maybe Lazarus wants to come back, or maybe he doesn't care at all, and he's just not even going to feature in this patch. It's just that we get backstory on his people without seeing him himself. There is some reason Lazarus might want to come. Lazarus might want to rush here to beat Primordus to the punch, if Primordus is interested in this chunk of the Bloodstone. Or even there's an even crazier theory where maybe Lazarus wants to come here not because of the Bloodstone, but because of the entrance to the Mists. That entrance now goes to Cormyr's Redeemed Realm, and there's no Titans there. But Lazarus didn't like the Titans anyway. He might just want to find a way to escape into the Mists to get many of his brethren out, perhaps, or something. So we'll see. We'll see how they handle that. There's so many stories here. There's the Sahothan, Magdea, and Ritlock connections. It's going to be very, very, very interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how well they tell the story through the ruins in this environment, if they are indeed ruins at all, if they still exist after all these years on a volcanic island chain. So the article sort of touches on this a little bit more as well, by the way. It explains that that not only has a lot of time passed, but also we have Zaitan and Morgemoth's influence in the area, that they've both come and gone. Now, this is really cool, and it makes me really appreciate why we're going to the Fire Island chain right now in the story. Like, think about the world geographically, okay? We just killed a dragon directly to the east of the Fire Island chain, and which was Zaitan at launch, and we've just killed a dragon directly to the north, and I mean really close. If you think about Morgemoth's actual location, where we infiltrate the tree and then, you know, the mouth of Morgemoth and stuff was Morgemoth was really close to the Fire Island chain. So we've had these two recently active dragons. Of course their forces have gone over there. Morgemoth, it's a little bit more speculative. I don't believe there was ever a line of dialogue anywhere that said that Morgemoth's forces had gone to the Fire Island chain. It just makes sense because he's so close. But definitely with Zhaitan, I mean, it was just this week we read the Movement of the World where they explicitly stated that Zhaitan's forces, risen ships, were around the Fire Island chain, and we should be able to see their wreckages or maybe even some remnants of them hanging around. You know, the Heart of Thorns story that they set up here where the Sylvari continue to survive and exist even though their master that originally seeded them perhaps is gone, that explains why maybe Risen could still be around even though Zhaitan is gone. And it could just happen that there are Risen on the Fire Island chain and nobody's really had a chance to kill them off because nobody goes to the damn place, and even though Zhaitan's dead, some of them are still ambling around there. That could be something we see. I'm not saying it's necessarily what we're going to see. And remember at the start of this video where I talked about how they could include a lot of the watery areas around the Fire Island chain too? Well, that's an opportunity to show the remnants of these undead fleets and ships that have perhaps sunk, or maybe a couple are still standing, you know, a new take on the bone ships. Okay, I'm going pretty off the deep end here. But that's going to be fun, and I think that it's a really good time to go to the Fire Island chain then, because if we move like 2 dragons on, then you kind of don't get to experience the influence of these two on this area in such a cool way that is so appropriate for the time. One thing that I'm getting from these articles that I don't like, maybe it's just because I don't like the race, maybe it's just because I'm a boring guy these days, maybe because I'm getting older and I'm just a bit of a douche about stuff, but the Skritt are on the Fire Island chain. Yay, Skritt. Okay, so if you guys love Skritt, apparently there's Skritt there. The thing is, I have solidified in my mind the Fire Island chain is this incredibly dangerous, inhospitable place that you could barely even breathe nor move for being set alight or having your lungs choked out by ash, okay? There's a really beautiful description in Guild Wars 1 of the only natural port in the entire area, the Ember light camp, that makes the place sound so dangerous and deadly. And the only monsters you found there in Guild Wars 1 were things like hydras. Wow, what if a hydra comes back in Guild Wars 2? Wouldn't that be incredible? And really thick-skinned stuff like Ettins, and then of course the Massah. And now in Guild Wars 2 we have Skritt here. And it sounds like there's been a long-standing Skritt presence there, that the Skritt have got kings and queens and stuff. I don't know, man. I guess it's a fun little extra thing to pack in some more content there. I don't like it on paper, but maybe I'll find them all adorbs and I'll love it when we actually get in there. Okay, me being a lame wad, moving on. Another very, very interesting thing that is coming back on this map related to the mechanics is going to blow your mind. It blew my mind to hear about this. It's heart quests. Yeah, let me say that again. Renown events, heart quests, they're coming back. That's crazy to me. So the story with hearts was they were kind of like this filler feature because ArenaNet didn't quite have enough events in core Tyria at launch. People were a little bit directionless. They didn't understand the idea of the game. So they added hearts, which was supposed to be sort of regional progress achievements you could get that pointed you specifically to places where there were lots of events. And the events were still supposed to be the primary thing. But then as they continued developing the game, they made so few events that hearts became the be-all and end-all. And then events had nothing to do with map completion, but hearts did. And it just kind of snowballed away. And people generally don't like hearts. Hearts are like everything that's bad about traditional quests with everything that's good about traditional quests, as in getting meaningful lore, meaningful reason for why you're doing whatever, you know, an actual NPC to talk to and connect with and get a decent reward from, stripped away because it's just all automated. And I get it at launch, and perhaps now there are some people who still love that massive streamlining, but it wasn't a feature people liked too much. And ever since Core Guild Wars 2 release, they have avoided hearts. They've gone with other ideas for map completion. And now they're back. So I don't begrudge ArenaNet for this, by the way. I'm actually quite excited about the shake-up. I'm quite excited about the consistency between core Tyria stuff and the new experience. And they've done a bit of a twist on the hearts, and I applaud them for trying new things out. So the twist is that hearts are repeatable now. And we have a bit of an example of one. It remains to be seen how these will feel in-game. This, to me, feels like the exact kind of thing we might find on a live stream at some point. But repeatable hearts are coming back on this map as an element of map completion. I'm very curious how that will all work. And it's one of the things that has got me curious about the game, because it is a bit of a shake-up. So that's about it, really. Another thing I managed to glean from some information was that kind of one of the visual motifs in the map was going to be these big skulls. And so what do I mean by that? In Guild Wars 1, as you explored the Fire Island chain, sometimes you just find these rocks that look like faces, massive giant flaming skulls in the environment. And I guess it's one of those funny things. Prophecies did a lot of stuff like that, and it was meaningless, and there was no lore written behind it. And really, I never questioned why those things were there, ever. But they're coming back in Guild Wars 2. It could just be Guild Wars 2 devs looking back at their subject material and thinking, yeah, they look cool. But will we maybe get some lore on them as well while we're at it? That would be something pretty interesting at that. So there you go, guys. Fire Island Chain, Ember Bay, 2 weeks. Keep an eye on the channel. If you guys remember, before Heart of Thorns came out, and they revealed we were going to the Maguma Jungle, I did a short series where I played through that Guild Wars 1 content so you guys could see, you could compare. And I'm going to do that again for here, for the Fire Island Chain. So in the next 2 weeks, expect some cool Guild Wars 1 videos where I show all of this stuff off to you guys properly there in-game. We read all the descriptions, talk to the NPCs, and really learn what it's like to be on the Fire Island Chain so that you can appreciate it when the patch comes out in just 14 days or so. One final thing before we end the video, which I've bundled in here at the last, as many of these news sites seem to have done as well. This is not the only update for the game, PvE. There's going to be a change for PvP also, and it's a new map. Can you believe it? So soon after we just got Revenge on the Capricorn. So supposedly it's got some weird gladiator audience that reacts to your progress on the map, and that makes sense to me because if you remember Revenge on the Capricorn, as the map developed, the town got more and more wrecked by the ship. Apparently this is something they could be quite proud of and they want to show off. It's called the Eternal Colosseum. It's a regular conquest map. It has 2 bonus mechanics on it, the Sword of Reaping and the Shield of Life. One's good for stomps, I think. The other one's got something to do with defense and rezzing. And apparently the best place for us to get information on this is if you watch the World Championship. They'll show it off there, similar to how before Heart of Thorns came out, they showed off Stronghold stuff there. I think that's really smart, whoever was behind that idea. It gets the viewership into the PvP scene, which it sorely needs. For the amount of marketing money that they spend on the PvP side of the game, it would be really nice if, you know, people actually had a bit more incentive to go watch that stuff. So that's cool. I will also add as well, it's really nice to see 2 maps go into PvP so fast. This is unprecedented. This is the first time Guild Wars has been in this spot, all right, that we've had PvP maps going in so quickly. It's crazy. It reminds me of our old data mining series on Tyria 3D. And how, do you guys remember there were like 20, 30 dead, unused, unfinished map concepts that ArenaNet had made for Conquest and other map types that never got released? It seems like for the first 2.5 years or so, they were making tons of stuff, just none of it ended up in the game. And I get why they were being so scared with all that stuff, because they didn't want to split too many game types out there and have the same problems they had in Guild Wars 1 where player audience is spread all over the place. But what you're finding now, I think, is that because they have this comfortable matchmaking system, they're not scared to add lots of new maps in anymore because people will be centralized. It all goes into the same matchmaking system and people can just vote on whatever map they like. So this could be a really good sign for PvP. PvP may really start to get a lot of new maps. That's 1 new map for each Living World update so far. Are they gonna keep that up? That'd be pretty insane, right? And while they're at it, maybe they could give us festival matchmaking, please. You know, give us a new version of the gamer title. Allow us to queue in as PvPers into snowball fights. Team queue at Aspect Arena. That old League of Legends Halloween map we haven't seen for ages. Come on, people would love it. An alternate version to queue while the festival's up. Anyway, I'm rambling. There you go, guys. That's the patch. I am pumped. I hope you are pumped too. It seems that a lot of people wanted this. I hope ArenaNet does well, but all the impressions I've heard so far from people who've actually seen the damn thing say it is beautiful, and that is exactly what we want, right? Think about the difference between the Guild Wars 1 Maguma Jungle and the Guild Wars 2 Maguma Jungle. Graphically, it is incredible, right? Now, just try and apply that same jump, perhaps, to the Fire Island chain. Oh my god, 14 days. Cannot come soon enough. Let me know what you think, guys, in the comments, and I will see you very soon. Catch you next time, guys. Within the story. So I say the Fire Island chain does have a high chance for us to go to it. It's even got the benefit of the fact it's not a particularly large area at all. 2, 3